So being in the workforce for most of my life, I have learned the hard way how important it is to set boundaries with your 9-to-5 job.
You in the past, I'm in the future. You mad.
Thank you all so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Kela Trishaan, and I make videos on lifestyle, womanhood, mental health, and I'll throw in some vlogs here and there. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back, and thank you for your support. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about something that is very near and dear to me, and that is setting boundaries with your 9-to-5 job, basically a job where you're working for a company that is not your own. So, as I was saying before, I learned the hard way about setting boundaries and just how important it is to your mental health and your overall well-being. So if you're struggling in that area or you know someone that is, go on ahead and stay tuned. Okay, so my thought process, honestly, is that a lot of times you setting boundaries and just kind of knowing what you will and will not accept starts way before you even get a job. So my first tip is to define what a work-life balance looks like to you. Now, for me personally, having a work-life balance means that I don't have to work weekends unless I choose to. So I tend to stick with jobs that are Monday through Friday with the 8-to-5, 9-to-5 type schedule, and that is what I can commit to. So anything outside of that impedes on my work-life balance. As I've said in plenty of videos, I am a mother and a wife, so I need to make sure that I have time for my family and also my outside family, my siblings, my mom, cousins, stuff like that. So I want to make sure that I have time to hang out with people, to cultivate relationships. I do not want my life to be all about work. So with me knowing that about myself and what I define as a work-life balance, when I'm looking for positions, I am looking at positions that kind of fit that box to make sure that I'm able to do what I need to do outside of work hours. Okay, so with that being said, it brings me into my number 2 tip, is to look at companies and look at roles that align with your values, align with your work-life balance values. So for me knowing that I like an 8-to-5 schedule, like something that's not going to really deviate, and something where, if I want to work overtime or whatever, I can choose to work on a weekend, I'm probably not going to be a good candidate for a retail job, because a lot of times with those positions, the hours can be kind of all over the place. And if they're open from 6 a.m. to midnight, I could be scheduled anytime within that. And so for me, that does not work with my work-life balance idea. So that would not be a good job for me. When I'm looking for positions, and when you're looking for positions, look for roles that align with your values and align with what you consider acceptable. Even outside of work-life balance, I think that you need to look at like the culture of a company. And with us having access to the internet and just like different review pages and stuff like that, I think that it's a lot easier these days to kind of get information on like a company's culture than it was back in the day, where you would probably have to just kind of rely on word of mouth or actually start working the job to see what the culture's like. Look at things like that. Like, is this a culture where they encourage you to live your life outside of work? Or is this a company that pretty much wants them to be the center of your world? You got to look at things like that before you even get into the job, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure if you don't have to. Okay, so the next topic that I wanted to talk about has to do with overtime. And my tip here is to only do overtime if you want to, not because you feel like you need to. So I can speak specifically about the role I do. I work in insurance, and it's a job that's pretty much foolproof. There's job security because there's always going to be claims, and you're required to have insurance. So that's kind of my spiel on that. But I think that with like the type of job that I have, there is always an opportunity for overtime. Sometimes it's kind of lightly encouraged that we do overtime to stay on top of our work, because the work is always coming in. And in the state of California, if you are an hourly employee, you cannot be forced to work more than your 8 hours per day or like 40 hours per week, but you can do overtime if the company offers it if you choose to. So the reason why I bring that up is because I fell into a cycle at other jobs where I would do overtime like as a regular thing, like to the point of burnout, because I had so much work and I just felt like I just didn't have enough hours in the day to get my work done, which is twofold. It wasn't that I was a bad employee, it was just the amount of work that was coming in was just crazy. So it wasn't just me in that position. my coworkers were in that position as well. The issue that I have with overtime though is that you're not really taking a break and allowing yourself to like recover from like a stressful work day. So the way I treat overtime is, you know, if I have some extra time on a Saturday, or, you know, I'm kind of like in the mood to do it, or even if I want to work maybe an hour or so after I clock out, or after I would have clocked out during the week, just to get like some things done and set myself for the next day, I will do it. But if I'm already feeling burnt out, if I'm already tired or just kind of like not in a good headspace, I won't do it. Because one, the amount of money that you get, I feel, from overtime is not worth your mental health. Like, you can work all the overtime in the world, but it's not going to make you a millionaire. Like, just being completely honest. And then two, I think that it cheats you out of your self-care. It cheats you out of your, you know, evening routine or weekend routine if you have one. And then also it cheats you out of family time. So you kind of have to weigh the options. Like, a lot of times when I'm doing overtime, like my husband is going to be working late, or maybe, you know, it's early in the morning on a Saturday, so my son's still asleep or something like that. So not a big deal for me to get up, you know, do an hour or so of OT, or maybe an hour after work, just to get some things done. But I only do it when it's beneficial for me, not for the company. Like, unless the company has my name on it, my job is my job, and I'm not going to kill myself to make sure that their work gets done. Do the best that you can every single day when you come to work, and everything else will get done when it gets done. Okay, so my next tip has to do with vacation. Do not be one of those people letting your vacation roll over and roll over and roll over. Use your vacation time, use your PTO, use your sick days if you need to, use all of that shit, because it's there for a reason. Don't ever think that you need to have some type of like elaborate trip planned out for you to use vacation. What I do, and what I've been doing like for like the last, I would say, like year and a half, I will randomly take like a 4-day weekend. Like, I'll take off a Friday and I'll take off a Monday, just so I can have a break. Like, I think anybody that is working like a regular job, and, you know, you're constantly working Monday through Friday, you can attest to like sometimes like Saturday and Sunday is just not enough. Like, to be able to like fully rest, run your errands, clean your home, like 2 days is just not enough, you know? So there are some times where I'm like, you know what? I have the time. I'm gonna go on ahead and just create myself a 4-day weekend. The next holiday isn't for, you know, several weeks or several months. So I'm gonna go on ahead and just create that myself. And for me, it's like, it's not even about always having to go somewhere. Like, sometimes I just wanna not have to wake up and clock into this job. Like, I would like to sleep in, or literally just do something that I wanna do for that day. So don't be afraid to do that here and there. Like, I like to call them mental health days, because you literally are just taking that time off for your mental health. And I think it's important too, if you have a stressful job, because the stress from the job isn't going to go anywhere, but you need to do something to, you know, protect your mental health and just kind of protect your sanity. And sometimes that could be just taking an extra day or two off. Like, even if you have a heavy workload, the way I see it is the work will be there when you get back. And then anything that needs to be taken care of right away, there are other employees around to take care of it. You have a manager. There should be something in place for when people are not there. So don't be afraid to take your time off. And that goes with sick days too. Don't make yourself miserable if you are sick. One, obviously, if you're working like in an actual office, you don't want to take the chance of getting others sick. And then two, I mean, you're not at your best. If you're feeling miserable, your sick days are there for a reason. Don't abuse it, but use them if you need them. So don't let that time accumulate. Even if you don't have anywhere to go, stay home, sleep in, do something around town, but take some time off. Okay, so my 5th tip is to do your job to the best of your ability, but stop volunteer to do other people's jobs. And the reason why I say that, now, I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt, because obviously it all depends on what type of industry you're in. If you're trying to move up, maybe it might be helpful for you to show that you can take on additional tasks, things like that. But I have found in all the roles that I've had that when I go above and beyond, like when I'm trying to do my job, this person's job, the manager's job, all that stuff, when I'm trying to be like essentially teacher's pet, all it gets me is burned out. Like, burned out. And a lot of companies will take advantage of that. It's like, why am I going to promote this person when they're already doing A, B, and C? Like, they do their job well, they're doing other people's jobs well. We just gonna keep them in the same position because they're doing it without the pay. And a lot of times I feel like we forget that a job is supposed to be mutually beneficial. Yes, you were supposed to be an asset to the company, but they should be an asset to your life as well. So obviously I think that, like, you're not gonna get everything that you want in a role, but you shouldn't be taken advantage of. So don't open up the door to be taken advantage of. Set those boundaries. For example, there was a situation that happened at my job when we had switched systems. If you guys watch my videos, you will have seen a couple of vlogs that I did where I was talking about this system change and just how busy and overwhelmed we were. So with that, because I was one of the first people to be transferred to this system, I was asked to train like fellow employees, which I didn't really mind at first, but then it got to a point where it was basically me training these people. I'm still getting the same amount of work, and I'm not getting any leeway on the work. I'm just training people, and that's not really my job. I didn't sign up to be a trainer. I didn't sign up for that. So I did it that particular time, but then when I kind of saw how I was treated after, and not that it was bad, it's just that, none of my workload was considered during this time. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, thanks for your help, but you still need to get to this, you still need to get to that. I was even more overwhelmed. So when it came around again for like the next group of people to be brought into the system, I was not volunteering to train anybody because y'all not paying me extra. You guys aren't assisting me, on my workload. As a matter of fact, it got worse. So do things within reason. Make sure that you are doing your job to the best of your ability, because that's what you got hired to do, and that's what you are paid to do. You are not paid to make sure everybody else is doing their job unless you are a manager. I am not a manager. So just keep that in mind. Do your job. Don't volunteer to do everybody else's unless you're going to get some coin with that. Okay, so my last and final tip is going to be learn to professionally say no. This is going to be big as far as setting your boundaries, because as I was saying, companies will use you up and spit you out if you allow them to, but you have to know your limit, and you have to know what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. For example, if you get off at 5 p.m. and someone contacts you about work or whatever, like something work related, you can professionally say, hey, I would love to help you. Let's circle back at 8 a.m. tomorrow, or, whatever the case may be. You don't have to work off the clock. Like, keep your time and the company's time separate. Don't feel like you need to be tied to your phone, even if you are salary. Now, obviously, in some positions, it's going to require you to be available around the clock, but that needs to be specified, and that needs to be something that you agreed to when you first got the position. But if it's not one of those roles where you need to be available after hours or while you're on vacation, set that boundary, or let people know that, hey, if you contact me during these hours, or if I'm on vacation, you won't get a response. I'll respond to you when I'm back in the office. If you have coworkers that like to chit chat, I've dealt with that before. Coworkers that like to chit chat. I don't mind chit chatting, but I also have work to do. And if I'm in the zone, I really don't like to be bothered. This is just not even with work. This is personally. When I get into a zone, I don't like to be bothered. So I've had to professionally tell people, hey, love to talk to you, or hey, I only have a few minutes, or whatever the case may be, so I can let you know, like, I'm willing to talk to you, see what's going on in your life, whatever, but I don't have all day to sit here and gossip. I got to get back to work. So yeah, learn to professionally let people know, like, where they need to kind of chill and what you are okay with and not okay with. You have to teach people how to treat you, because if you just kind of do whatever, then people will do whatever. All right, you guys, so that is all I have for you today. Basically, I wanted to make this video because I know that for some people, especially if you're working for another company, you may not feel empowered enough to speak up for yourself and to set boundaries. And a lot of us are out here, living paycheck to paycheck. We need our jobs, and we feel as if we don't have any kind of recourse. We feel like we don't have a voice. And it's important to understand that you do have a voice. Your company needs you as much as you need them. And even if, this job is something that you can't lose. I'm not saying to, you know, just go out there and talk reckless to people, because we all need our jobs. But I think that you need to be empowered enough to stand up for yourself and just not let anybody run all over you. You can get a paycheck at this company, but you can also get a paycheck somewhere else. So if the environment is extremely toxic, if they are constantly disregarding your boundaries, or if you feel taken advantage of, then start looking for other positions so you can live a healthier life and your mental space can be great. So if you enjoy this video, please go on ahead and give it a big fat thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you have not already subscribed, go on ahead and click that subscribe button below, and be sure to turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. With that being said, you guys have an amazing day, and I will see you next time.
You mad that they don't salute you. I need a bag, size is super. They turned your bag, it's like I never knew you. Leave that.